And this section, we're going to go over the business challenges, but do you remember what a successful business is? I can't remember if I have any slides or not in this section. Organization makes current customers happy, gets new customers while doing what? Generating a profit, generating more cash than it spends after paying whose bills? Your bills. Memorize that. Let it flow through. Let it memorize it. Let it become part of your being. These are spirit fingers or whatever they are. Do it. All right, business challenges. These are challenges faced in your new career. Remember, pillar 1 is the business of business. These are challenges faced in your new career, the business of business. And these are what you must overcome, or we want you to avoid these. You got to overcome the challenges. They're there. Hopefully you won't even confront them because you're going to be so successful. But if you don't know they're there, they're like quicksand. You got to avoid the quicksand if you're on a hike or wherever you might be, or the pit. Don't fall in the pit. Don't fall into quicksand. Don't fall into a pit. All right, you must overcome to achieve business success. So, successful business, I did it. Organization makes current customers happy, gets new customers, earns a profit. Memorize it. Okay. Business challenges. We're going to go over the survival challenge, financial challenge, and then finally the survival mode challenges. These are things you need to be ready for. You need to know they exist. You need to be prepared for the startup phase, what a startup is. So, the survival challenge. There you go. Let's look at survival challenge. Look at year 1. You're starting out, beginning of year 1. Hey, congratulations. Your startup has survived, but you really haven't done anything yet. You just opened your doors to the public. But look at this, year 3. Within 3 years, you guys all know these stats. You never want it to be your business. We want to make sure that you understand that these are real. I have dealt with it so much. That's why I created the 5 pillars. That's why I did the study. I don't want you to go through the same thing. Okay? By year 3, 56% are surviving of startups. 44% haven't made it to year 3. Okay? Very important you understand that. And this is what strikes me with this small business stuff is this includes a lot of businesses, startups that really have a lot of systems, a lot of the 5 pillars in place. I'm talking about franchises and all that. So I mean, even professions like insurance, items like that have a lot of support behind them. So these numbers are really, if you think about the failure rates include them, you look at who's surviving, even individuals that already have a lot of support systems in place, we're your support system. 5 pillars are your support system. All right, 56% survive, 44% fail. Within 10 years, look at this, 30% are left that have either been sold to somebody else, usually just to get out of it, they sell their assets. Not necessarily sell for millions and millions of dollars. 30% survive. A lot of them are what we call in survival mode. We'll talk about that in a little bit. 70% have failed within 10 years. We don't want you to be among them. We want you to be among these, the 30%, the small percentage of these that achieve the definition of a successful business, which I'm sure you have memorized by now. Now this really is not about, remember, business is not an abstract thing. All right, I told you earlier that I have dealt with many small business owners that have failed, many businesses have failed. I don't want anybody to go through that, okay? I've seen lives devastated, savings gone because people weren't prepared for the startup stage, bankruptcy, divorce, serious tax problems, not paying payroll taxes, just really lives devastated because you go into this dream and everything just kind of falls apart. Lost reputation, health issues. I think I've mentioned before, I've seen the stress of being in business for yourself or being in a startup, not prepared. You're going to be prepared, but not being prepared for startup actually can lead to all these things. I can tell you a lot of horror stories. But anyway, it's a survival challenge. Why does it happen? You got to understand, or to avoid just about it, understanding that this business is a new career. They're going to fail because, well, I guess what I'm talking about here is why they fail. Understanding that business is a new career. Not understanding from the get-go that you have a product or service that maybe you're the best at your product or service you bring to market. Maybe you're the best at whatever skill it has. It has nothing to do with creating a successful business. You got to understand that this business is a new career. You're going to need new skills. You're going to have to change your paradigm and the way you think about things. That's one of the purpose of this boot camp. Lack of one or more pillar, of course, slip into survival mode. And you think about it, most startups got to fail. If everybody that went into business for themselves was successful, think about this. Everybody ever went into business for themselves was successful, and everybody wants to own a small business at one time or other. If every startup was successful, no one would have any employees. There's only a given number of customers for any particular business. So you think about it, most must fail. So we don't want it to be you, but they fail for a reason because they lack one or more pillars. They don't understand that they're going into business. It's a new career. Okay, second challenge. Second challenge is the financial challenge. Now let's go over this here. You're going to notice that very few business owners that are in startup stage, as they go into business, a few get rich. You notice that I have like get extremely rich. Less than 1%, probably. Bad news, and well, statistically it's less than 1%. I'm not going to say probably. The bad news is very few become rich. But the good news, the flip side, if you're looking at this, 70% of those earning over $1 million a year have small business income. So, yeah, sure, a few do it. But if you look at the richest people in America, at some point, if they're first generation, you know where they got that business from some point. At some point, they were a startup. Many of them were, if you come, and they got it from businesses. Or they were a member of a startup. Maybe they're part of a startup team. But 70% of those earning over $1 million per year have small business income in their portfolio. And also remember, now you're taking the 5 pillars of business success, you're learning how to succeed, but many who finally achieve success, they failed one or more times, and they've learned from their mistakes. They got the entrepreneurial gene. They learn from their mistakes. You might make mistakes in this startup that you're doing now, but by working with the 5 pillars, going through the boot camp, taking more of our courses, even if your startup doesn't make it, you are drastically going to increase the chances. If you're prepared and not completely financially devastated so you can't start over, so if you're prepared for the startup stage, you're on your way to success. Many people have said, I can't remember who said it, but you fail your way to success. 5 pillars of business success are going to help you minimize your chances of failure. But we want to make sure you understand the financial challenge, which is what we're doing here. Some do better than average. Let's say about 10%. About 10% make more money than they would otherwise make. About 10% of startup owners will earn more from their business than they would, and this is kind of crazy, than they would have earned working for others. Now, that might seem a little crazy. I think Scott Shane had a book, The Illusions of Entrepreneurship, very good book on the statistical reality small business owners face. If you get a chance, I'd pick it out. But really, you're focused on success. I'm just pointing these statistics out to you. So don't kill the messenger. Okay, now 90%, most of small business owners, and if you know some small business owners, you know this is probably true in your own experience as well, most small business owners earn less. And according to Scott Shane's book, his study, which is all census data for the most part, they earn on average about 18% less. The vast majority of small business owners, people in startups, will wind up earning 18% less than they would have earned doing the same type of work with the same skill set working for others. Now that's a little scary. And one of the reasons they do is because they fall into what we call survival mode. That's going to be our next challenge. We want you to avoid it. I hate survival mode. You're going to see how much I hate survival mode. But most survivors also work more. On average, a small business owner, and you get in survival mode, you're not working because you love it. You're working because you got to do it. We want you to work more because you're a small business owner. You're going to work more, but we want you to do it because you love your business and you're passionate about it. But most survivors also work about 30% more hours than their employees do. Fact. I work more hours than my employees do. If this is your second startup or third, you know that you do too, but you do it because you're passionate about it and want you to be successful. What happens if you get a survival mode, we'll talk about it later. You're doing it for other reasons. Okay, financial challenge. Why do people not succeed in this? A lot of times during startup stage, you're not financially prepared. You become financially dependent on the outcome too soon. You get stuck in what's called survival mode. We're going to talk about that later. And that's what's going to come up in the next section here. We're going to go over the 3 business stages.